Alright, this is your creation. My name is Starseed Bey. Today we're going to be talking about some different things, but as the title blah 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 blah. As the title states, confusing the confused. And the reason why I bring this up is I really feel that including myself is we get stuck in our own belief systems. We get stuck in our own belief systems. We get stuck in our own truths. And that really can hinder us on our not only physical path, but on our spiritual path, on our spiritual growth, and on our spiritual development. Because one part of the thing that we really learn through life is we learn from each other. We learn from each other. We grow in life with each other. We may not always agree a lot with our friends or just people we work with or just people we meet. Sometimes, we can go, I don't know why you believe in this kind of stuff, and then walk off, right? Or I don't know why you have this kind of lifestyle, and walk off, right? We really have to start embracing people's choices in life. Embracing people's choices in life. And they may be good choices, they may be bad choices. But it's up to us, and this is what I talked about in the level of maturity video, is that we have to mature on how we present ourselves and what we are trying to present to the world, and that's the process of self-awareness. Without self-awareness, you're just going to act and react upon each moment, which is fine. I mean, that's part of life. But it's best to do a self-reflection and think before you act, or think of what you're wanting to present to the people around you, or what they're presenting to you as a whole. And it's very important. I'm gonna try and share this stuff out on Facebook, so just kind of bear with me. But one of the key things too is I wanted to look up this scripture here. I wanted to present some stuff before I went live, but it's increments of half hours. So I didn't want to wait a whole other half hour. Go live at 3 o'clock my time. I just want to go live now. So that's why I'm going live now. So I'm going to kind of just do research and look up stuff as we're live. But there's so many things that are talked about through a religious standpoint, of being aware of those who confuse you, right? Who are confusing, or who are trying to con you into their own religious structure. And I guess there's a scripture that kind of states that foundation of be aware of those who speak half truths. So let's look into that here in a second. Hopefully I can spell it right. Scripture of confusing people. So if any of you guys are in the chat room, definitely give me a shout out. If you got any questions or concerns, now's the time to ask. That's why I go live, so I can see what's on your guys' minds. Let's see what we got here. I'm still trying to find out another way to read you guys' comments on Facebook. So I'll be looking at that here in the future. And you'll probably hear my kids in the background, but that's okay. Let's see. Yeah, we got a storm outside. It's not doing anything. It's just a whole lot of lightning and thunder, but very little rain. We need more rain, man. That's what I always tell people all the time. I'm like, we need more rain. And a funny story yesterday. I was trying to mow the lawn. I got an electric lawnmower. So I got this big extension cord. So it's just like vacuuming outside, right? But man, it saves a lot of money though. Very little on electricity being used, and you don't have to go and get gas at the gas station, so it's nice. But I was trying to mow the lawn, and then I see this big old flash because I'm listening to music, so I can't hear the thunder. But I see this big old flash. I'm like, oh crap! I gotta turn the lawnmower off. So I turn it off. Then I wait because I'm like, man, I'm determined to get this lawn mowed. So I'd wait, and then it'd be okay. Mow some more. But then I started hearing the booming and the flashing. I was like, all right, I gotta stop, man. Electricity running through a lightning storm, probably not a good idea. So I had to finish mowing at least one half of the lawn this morning. So yeah, so that was a determination of trying to get the lawn mowed yesterday. So yeah, and you can use that in your life. Man, I cannot find a scripture for life of me about this. So I may not be able to bring that to the table. So that's okay. So basically, I mean, why I look at it this way, you know, breaking down the word confusing, you know, right? It's con, right? It's conning you into something, whether it be positive, whether it be negative, right? In life, through choices, we are always conned. We're always conned into something. And the fusing part, right, confusing, is fusing those beliefs and choices into your life, right? You're fusing all of this stuff into your life, into your consciousness stream, and through others who surround you and who you interact with. You're fusing all this stuff together. You know, this is part of the empathic nature that we are as beings, and this is also part of our DNA structure, and our genetic makeup, you know, on how we express ourselves through this experience, right? Through this matrix structure, you know, because everybody keeps talking about how we're in a matrix structure, and that goes many levels, you know. I mean, is this world holographic in nature? Yeah, it is, because we choose what we want to participate in, what we want to acknowledge, what we don't want to acknowledge. It's a choice, you know, it's a choice. You know, there's many different paths that we can choose in life, but there's only certain ones that we're actually going to experience. And this brings into like the timeline structures as well, of, you know, since we created 4 other thoughts, right? We chose 1 out of the 4 to experience, but we chose 3 other paths on the timeline. And it generated its own earth and experience. And therefore, as your vibrational frequency is going up and down in a wave, those timelines you created, you're going to see the choices unfold in each timeline. Therefore, it can bring in the confusion aspect of, hey, you know, I don't remember this happening, or hey, this person had a conversation with me, but I don't remember it, but I had a thought of it before. So it brings into a whole different element of the fusing aspects of our realities. And I know this is a little confusing as a whole. I'm trying to kind of piece this all together. Now the rain's coming down. All right. But oh, and I actually got some people in the chat room. We got White Waves. How's it going, White Wave? Yep, kids will be kids. White Wave says, that's why I hang out with chickens instead of people. Hey, and we got Tilea. I hope that's how you say your name. How's it going? And we also got Matthew. All right, thank you guys for joining. Like I said, if you guys got any questions or want to bring anything to the table, definitely let me know. So yeah, I lost my train of thought here. But yeah, I mean, I'll use my life as an example, right? I woke up in 2010, just became self-aware of everything, questioning why I did what I did, my thought patterns, my belief structures, everything. I questioned everything in January of 2010. I began to do tons of research and began to do some self-reflections on my life. I was a very depressed individual, who always thought negative about everything, that everybody was out to get me or didn't like me, things of that nature. And I really had to do a 360 in my life. I did, and basically, what I mean by waking up in 2010 is that my guides and my inner guidance, the Holy Spirit, I guess you could call it, the Holy Spirit guided me in that I needed to better my life, and that I was chosen, right? I was chosen to help people during this time frame. And back when I was a little kid, I had to have been maybe 7 or 8 years old. Could have been younger than that. But I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I felt this in the spirit. I'm like, I'm going to help people someday. I'm going to help change the world. I'm going to help change the world. I wasn't sure how, but I told myself that in the mirror, that I was going to help change the world. And that was a pinpoint, a self-reflection of the inner child in me, because you never want to forget the inner child, right? For those who had a good childhood, right? Because there's some people who have never had a childhood. They had to grow up offhand, or they had messed up childhood. They didn't have parents, or their parents were abusive, whatever it may be, right? So I had a childhood, so I was able to do a self-reflection on the child of me. Never lose that child aspect of self. But you also need to be aware that if you never had a experience as a child, right? You never had an experience of a child, that childhood was taken away from you. Sometimes later in your adulthood, you have to do a self-reflection of being a child again, and each person will have their own path on that, but you can revisit that child aspect. And a lot of times that requires you having a child, right? You may not have expected to have a child, but a child will come into your life to express that, or become or awaken the childhood that you never had. So you're going to give that child a childhood you never had. And in doing so, you also become childlike yourself. So having children is amazing. It is, and it definitely brings a lot of self-reflection into your life. Are you going to, if you had a bad childhood, are you going to be what your parents were and give your child the same experience that you had? Or are you going to do the total opposite and bring healing and clarity to your bloodline? And I've been talking about this. Healing and cleaning to the bloodline, and teach your child what you want to be taught in life. That it's okay to be a child. We also need to learn about being respectful, responsible, things of that nature. And and that's part of maturity. That's part of maturity. Some people don't even reach that level of maturity. I mean, they could be in their 40s and they're still trying to get out of their teenage years. So, and that's kind of breaking the boundaries of your ego, right? Because we have to become the best of friends with the shadow self. The best of friends with the shadow self. And that's a whole different aspect of learning about the self-healing, is embracing the shadow self. Not pushing away your shadow self of, oh, hey, I need to be all love and light, positive, lovey-dovey, I don't need to let the darkness consume me. But what happens with that, I know this is getting off topic here, but what happens when you push away the darkness within your life, or the childhood traumas and things you went through, as you continue to push it away, it builds and creates the shadow self more and more and more in your life, and it overcomes and consumes you. Your shadow self begins to manifest into the physical reality, and you begin to have interactions with people that have the kind of same situations that you have been blocking off in your life. So it's the spirit letting you know, hey, this stuff is manifesting into your life because you are looking away from what you are. You're looking away from what you are. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't like that. They'll say, hey, you're confusing me. I'm not going to embrace the darkness. Why would I want to embrace the darkness? Why would I want to embrace that negative aspect? That's going to bring my vibrations down, right? So they'll totally turn away it, but they're missing the point. They're missing the point that the whole reason why the shadow self is there for you to discover, and why we have breakdowns in our lives. This is one of the key things that everybody goes through, is the breaking down moments. I've had my breaking down moments, and it took to the point of me wanting to leave this world to realize, or allow the Spirit or Christ within me to say, hey, what are you doing, man? I've been here the whole time for you. I've been laying a foundation here, showing you, that you're learning, you're growing in life. But don't give up. Don't give up. And, when we go through those breaking down moments, that's when we really have to do a self-reflection on our life. Is what is working in our life and what is not working? What is constantly bringing me back to the shadow aspect of self? Why am I not dealing with the shadows of myself, right? Because we have not been taught on how to deal with it. We have not been taught how to deal with it. And if you go into the religious aspects of things, oh, just give it to God. He'll take care of it. Just give it to Christ. He'll take care of it. But based on my experience, Christ will tell you, hey, I have been here. I am here to aid you in this, because you're the one that's doing all the work. You're the one that's doing all the work. If you don't do that inner work and inner self-reflection, you're never going to learn. You're never going to grow. You have to be aware that to make the change in your life, you're the one that is physically here, right? You're the one that's physically here, and you have to make those changes in your life. Nothing's ever going to be perfect in your life. Why that is because that is the foundational structure of how we build and grow within self. The more and more that I talk with people, I watch podcasts and stuff with people, I began to really see kind of lost my train of thought there. I really began to see where people are at in life, and yeah, I really lost my train of thought now. Darn it, I hate it when that happens. Alright, so we'll get back to the shadow aspect. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But we really have to look at our life and realize that, oh yeah, I remember now, that this whole earth experience is a school. This whole thing is just a school. And that's what I was saying with podcast interviews and stuff, is that we're learning. It's all about learning. Whether you look through politics, you watch, the news on Fox and stuff, or you just listen to people's personal opinions and viewpoints, and even me talking about what we're talking about in this video, is we're learning from each other. This is a plane of existence of learning and growing. Um, I've talked about, my memories of being in past lives. I've have memories of being a Lyran cat being. I have memories of being an Octurian being, and I've kind of embraced those experiences, right? Those experiences, being Octurian. We learned a lot about the the logical standpoints of things. It was kind of like a Vulcan aspect, of becoming one with technology and being a more of like a hive mind, communicating with each other equally and respectively. It was basic platforms. Being a cat, Lyran cat being, was more about honor, family, being a tribe, being a pact, loyalty, um, things like that. That's what I learned there, and that was kind of the foundational guidelines of those planets. But here on Earth, man, it's such diversity. There's so much diversity on this planet, that you can choose whatever kind of path you want to be. I mean, take monks for example. You can spend your whole lifetime on the enlightenment path, and that's what you learned. You can learn about the religious aspects of idol worshiping and just consume your whole experience here, learning about the religious aspects of what it does to people, how it helps people, how it cons people, as well as the idol worshiping, and how you can create a platform for someone. And this brings an interesting point too. I was watching an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and it was an episode of um man, if you guys aren't familiar with Star Trek, it's gonna throw you off. But there was the Cardassians was a race of controlling, so they would enslave people and help their planet out and getting resources and stuff. They would go and kidnap other races and whatnot, but they were with the Bajorans and whatnot. But anyways, whatever the case may be, there was this planet that they were still enslaved, the Bajorans, and there was this one person that by accident, I guess, he was with a Cardassian, and he was going to pull his gun, so the Bajoran shot him dead for self-defense, right? Well, the other Bajoran saw that, and I guess the Cardassian was one of the major leaders, so he ended up becoming an idol of some kind. Like, he was there to build the future for the Bajorans and create change for the better. So he ended up becoming this huge icon. But no matter how many times the one Bajoran who killed that Cardassian kept saying, hey, it was an accident. It was an accident. They wouldn't listen to him. So they kept building a foundation for him. And what ended up happening towards the end of the video is that he didn't want to be this leader. He didn't want to live off of a lie that they kept saying. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're chosen out of weird situations. And sometimes you end up building a platform of hope for people, right? Building a platform of hope for people. So he ended up becoming a leader. But what happens over time is that they'll build a monument for you, and then they'll begin to idolize you as this great character. And we've seen this throughout history, of these great characters and what they did for humanity, right? Or they will start conning you as well, and I'll get that here in a second. But and that's what happens from a religious standpoint, is that they create an idol, and they can't, that's their foundation. That's their foundation, and they look for the next great leader, um, to bring that change. Hey, this person is trying to live up to the standards of David, right? Live up to the standards of David. And David has been used a lot throughout history. Um, and that's just kind of what you learn, right? Is that there's people in life that are there to change the foundation elements of things. But again, we also get the conning part of our founding fathers, right? We were taught in America about our great founding fathers and how they discovered America, and uh, they discovered all this great stuff and built all these beautiful things in America. When at the end of the day, you do research and you realize, oh wow, so they were the Europeans, and they came over here, found out that the land was ran by um, our native brothers and sisters, and they were all about becoming one with Earth and living the old-fashioned ways and all that, right? So the Europeans came over here and the Vaticans, and they killed and destroyed their lands and conned the natives into selling their rights away, or just basically just raping their rights away and things like that. So that's part of the confusing aspect of, it's very easily to influence those who are unaware, or those who lack knowledge, right? Those who lack knowledge. And that's why it's so important to do research. That's why it's so amazing right now that we have the internet to do research. And it can get out of hand a lot of times. When you're doing research, it gets out of hand because you don't know who to listen to. You don't know who to believe anymore. And this really begins to be hard on your life, because say you have a whole belief structure, you believe it 100%, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, your whole belief is just shut down, and you don't know what to do with your life. You don't know what to do with your life. You spent your whole studies and life, 20 plus years in your belief structure, and boom, it's been shot down. Um, you were conned. You were conned into a belief, and because of your lack of knowledge and wisdom, um, you're down to zero. You don't know what to do anymore. And we've all been down those paths. At least I have. I've been down that path a lot of times. Always questioned the church. I always questioned why people did what they did. But I always left that doorway of, hey, well, let's find out what's going on. There has to be something more to life. So you're not getting hit, running into a wall. And that's what a lot of people are going through right now. Is being hit in the face with their own beliefs of, we don't know what to believe anymore. The Americans, I think, are going to be the ones that are going to be hurting the most out of all this, because there's just so much controversy, so much stuff that's being laid out on the table, so much stuff. That's why it's so important to do research on other countries and their beliefs, and what they're doing right now, because people in other countries, their traditions are still pure, right? They still stick to their beliefs, or what their ancestors taught them. I mean, like Japan, for example. I mean, they still have that honorable instinct that still remains as a whole. Native tribes here, they still have that mentality, but some of that native history is also being lost. I hear this a lot when I watch interviews with natives, is that a lot of the native tongues are being lost now because it hasn't been handed down through generations. So a lot of that ancient language is being lost, which isn't good, because what happens is that by nature, and this is going to get into some little. I'll get back to what I was talking about, but by nature, we're supposed to be speaking in tongues. We're supposed to be speaking through vibrational frequencies of the um, I'll just speak in tongues myself. So Hashimiya Kiyosora ma Kirinigo mana Kiya Tikuto. That by nature is the basic instinct of how we should be communicating. Is through sounds. And I was watching True Seeker podcast, and there was a lady named Jill that was talking about music, sounds, and vibrations, and it was having me think about, on what we were taught in school, the A-E-I-O-U, right? And you can bring that into like this, the A-E-I-O-U. They're vibrational frequencies, right? They're vibrational frequencies. That's what those are. And they try to tell you you learn that so then you can learn on how to pronounce the English language. And it didn't make any sense to me. I mean, when I was learning the A-E-I-O-U's, it didn't make any sense on how that corresponded with with the language, with the English language. But I just learned it for what it was. But that was ancient teachings. The A-E-I-O-U was the basic teachings of mantras, or of the vibrational frequencies of what we send to people. The A-E-I-O-U. It sends the vibrational frequencies through your body, changing your vibrational frequencies and things of that nature. And that's the whole point of realizing, like with the English language, is a reverse language or a magical tool of changing your vibrational frequency through that. It's changing of the tongue. It's a foreign tongue. It's something that should have never been created. It's another form of magic. I mean, speaking in tongues is magic. Everything that we do is magic. And it's just a whole other subject. There's so much you can talk about. So much you can talk about. Let's see what's being talked about in the chat room here. Basically, they're kind of following up on what I'm talking about. But let's see what we got here. My phone's in the way. I'm recording on Facebook too. But let's see what we got here. See, White Wave says, I do that often as well. Have you researched reverse speech? Oh, and we were just talking about that. So, yes, I have researched that a lot. And it's so very important to, like I was just talking about, is to realize that the English language is a reverse speech. And it's a magic tool. You're sending different frequencies of vibrations to each person because we're empathic in nature. And I think that's why America has a hard time reflecting on each other, because you always hear people talking negative about each other, or they feel they need to talk negative about something, or they gossip about others. It's because it's the reverse language. We're feeding the shadow aspect of self. We're feeding the lower aspects, and that's part of the English language. Let's see. How do you know the difference between memories? How do you know the difference between memories and visions? I kind of view it, and this is where like the past life aspect is they're just memories, right? I mean, whether they're real or not, it's hard to say. But if you're learning from those memories or visions, that's that's part of your development, or your soul matrix development. And you gotta sometimes just view it, whether it be symbolic or an aspect, that you need to look at within your life. But as a whole, there is also thing as time. So when we say past lives, it doesn't necessarily mean it was a past life. It just means that I remember being that being, and it could be that I'm that being right now. I don't know. I mean, me speaking now could be a past memory, and it's hard to say. Just realize that the time doesn't really exist. It's just we're a form of existence right now, creating. That's why we say now is that this is your creation, because you're creating this aspect right now, and we're learning from each other right now. And what is this whole reason of why we're learning? Um, it is some form of self-development. It is a self-development. And what are we developing? We're developing something of creation. Creation is a form of thought. Creation is a form of communication, a presence, an existence. That's what creation is. That's what creation is. I am the Alpha and the Omega, right? I am the beginning and the end. It's creation. Without thought, without a platform, without a foundation, then there's the void. There's the void, the beginning of creation. Um, and that brings it to on how creation was started in the first place. I don't know how creation was created, but all I do know, and based on experience, is that we want to continue to create. We don't want to bring an end to creation. We want to create and generate new ideas and thought processes. So yeah, that was pretty deep right there. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Talea says, I have had a spiritual experience and noticed words reversed. It was simply to communicate at faster speeds, forward and backwards. That's a powerful experience there. And I would say for you, Talea, is that why was that shown to you? What did you find out from that? And that's very true. That's what I was saying. Is that we have to look at what kind of frequencies we're generating through communication. We can send healing vibrations. Our tone, what we use is a vibrational frequency, and that brings to the point of that podcast I was watching. Is through music. Is that uh, you can, like, playing the drums, for example. You hit a low key, right? You'll generate that build up, and then you'll build it up to a higher vibration with the drums, and it creates a whole different feel. And as you're hitting each drum note, it creates a whole different structure. That's why our ancient ancestors used music a lot, because it generates a different vibrational frequency and feel to it. Whether you need a healing frequency, whether you're trying to become one more with the creator or higher aspect of self. That's where the ohms and ums come from in church. So much dividing. Uh, that's another thing, is that there was, everything was one back in our ancient times. We had a whole music orchestra that was used to bring the vibrational frequencies into different platforms for the tribes, whether they need to make a harvest or heal people or heal the souls that surrounded people, whatever it may be. And all that connection was lost somewhere down the road. But yeah, I could keep talking about that. But as a whole, music, oh man, music is awesome. Let's see. David Oates is an accredited researcher who says reverse speech is the subconscious mind. Interesting. I never heard of that one. Could be. Let's see. I experienced a lot. It felt like a download, like they do in the movies, The Matrix. Oh, awesome. Also possible, my third eye and chakras are activated. So one of the key things to remember um, with your third eye or your chakra points is that they're already active. You just have to um, know how they work. You have to know how they work. And it's just like riding a bike, right? You don't know how to ride a bike until someone teaches you how to ride a bike. So the basic platforms of your third eye or your chakra points should have been taught to us at preschool. They should have been taught to us long ago because that's part of our existence. That's why so many people uh, don't know how to deal with their shadow self. They don't know how to deal with their shadow self. And one of the key things with a shadow self is that that shadow self is created from your bloodline, So you have all of your genetic encoding of this body, this vessel, within you. So you have to heal the shadow self first, um, to generate change and a healing structure within your bloodlines after that. So so that's part of uh, that lost teachings from my ancient ancestors that they don't want you to know. They don't, that's where these secret societies have taken the stuff away. That's where the Dark Ages came in. That's why the Europeans and the Vatican's dominated, from country to country, dominated everybody saying, hey, you believe in this or we're going to take you out right now, right? And then they burned all of their beliefs and things like that away. So the founding fathers uh, would make their own belief structures, and that's what you see. I was just talking to True Seeker earlier today about this, on how America. I'm gonna have to cut this video here soon, but on how America is a platform. It's a platform of conning humanity, America's trying, the leaders, right? Let me clear something up here before I get any further. Okay, the laws that America have are good. Okay, the laws that America have are good. The constitutions are good. The platform of how the law system works is good. Okay, but the problem is the people who run it, is the founding fathers who created it, right? Okay, they created a good platform, but because of their belief structures and um, on who they work for, there's hidden agendas behind what they're doing. This is how they con the people. And America is the new, and this is no secret, America is the new Babylon, America is the new Sodom and Gomorrah, and America is going to go through the same layouts of what happened in the past with Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah and things of that nature. Why America is the center point of that, I don't know, but I do believe that, I don't believe, but over time, the world will look at America and realize that oh man, there's so many things I could answer that. I'm just gonna say I think as a whole the world will open their hearts, right? That the world will come together because of the falling down of America. The falling down of America. And I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that you can bring up with that, but I do feel that over time, America is going to be a building block of uniting people, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, and that's what I was kind of talking with Truth Seeker about earlier. Is that sometimes I really want to leave America just because I can kind of see where it's going, but and I've talked about this before, but we got to realize that there's only certain parts of America that hold the foundation of their secret society, right? There's only certain areas that Babylon is the king over. They're not the kings over the whole United States, right? They're not the kings over all of America. They're only key holders in certain parts of America. So even if America were to fall, um, the elite or the powers that be, not all is lost. Not all is lost, and that's really where for those who live in America, like myself, we really have to band together and unify ourselves, right? Build tribes or packs of unity, okay? Because I don't like dividing. We gotta quit dividing ourselves, right? We can build tribes, but we have to be able to bring tribes together in unity for the changes to come. Because I mean, it's no denying. We can see the fall of how things were, and we're going to see a collapse of some kind. What kind of a collapse, I don't know, but as long as we are learning and growing, that's some good thunder right there. As long as we are learning and growing and we're using these platforms like the internet, we're going to continue to bring that change and open that doorway for future development, spiritual growth. That's what lacks here in America, is that spiritual growth and development. There's schools out there, definitely. There's online classes, definitely, but they're not known. Just like um, the podcast I watched earlier with the girl named Jill. I went and subscribed to her YouTube, and I guess she's been talking about this stuff for I think this. Oh man, what True Seeker say? Since the 70s or 80s, and she's not well known. She's not well known right now, um, which is a shame because she has so much stuff to offer to the world. But it's because a lack of spiritual connection in America. It's not accepted. It's not viewed as part of life. America, the public schools and stuff teach you on how to become part of the slave mentality of time, the slave mentality of you need to act a certain way, you need to be a follower and not a leader. Um, they can give you the platform. They can give you a platform of being a leader, but at the end of the day, you're not really a leader because you're answering to other leaders and things like that. So it's a rough road in America, it really is. I mean, there's a lot of free speech and we can create platforms, but it's definitely limited in some aspects. But definitely a lot of the stuff that we should have been taught in preschool time isn't taught. I mean, spirituality is not a religion. It's not. It's part of our being. It's part of our being. It's part of what we are. We're energy. We're synergy. We communicate empathically. And that reminds me too. I had a conversation where I worked at with a customer, and I had a feeling, that I kind of knew where she worked, but I just I created a conversation, and I I asked. I was like, "Hey, do you work at a restaurant?" And she's like, "No, I work at a." She's some kind of nurse, right? But I knew that's what I felt. I was like, "Man, it feels like she's like a nurse or something." So that's why I said restaurant, because I wanted to get validation of what I was feeling was accurate. So it was pretty cool, and that's where you really have to kind of test yourself too in environments. Is, if you want to test your empathic abilities, bring that to the table with your surroundings, and that's part of growth. And again, if True Seeker's watching this, I give him a lot of respect for what he's building for his platform, because he has this School of the Mystics, and we're learning a lot there. And it's really helped me a lot with my learning my empathic abilities. And I'm going to bring that, you know, to you guys as well, and continue to build upon that, because I mean, Truth Seeker, he can only do so much. I can only do so much. So we have to continue to build platforms for you guys, so then we can continue to learn from each other and bring back the teachings of our ancients, right? Bring back the teachings of our ancients, and not make it so limited to, hey, the natives do certain things, they have sweat lodges, and, getting back with your spiritual aspect. We need to bring that back as a whole, as a whole, uh, for humanity. We need to bring all of this diversity into one school, restructure the whole school curriculum, and bring back what we are. That is my dream, is to bring back the old teachings, and not keep it divided. There is so much foundational structures that we need to bring back to future generations. And it takes us to create an idea, and then the next step is to manifest into our reality. So that's what I'm going to be looking into, is getting names out there, creating platforms, and then building physical schools for that. And they're already being made. And they're just not well known. But we have to be able to bring that as a real curriculum as a whole. So I'm definitely going to be looking into that. I got to get on Zoom. I got to see what's the best subscription. I think it's like $16.99 a month or something like that. Then I can have all you guys chat with me, so we can start building this stuff. So I got to get with True Seeker and see what kind of Zoom platform he's using, so I can start to chat with you guys on a personal level. So I'm gonna be looking at that. As soon as I get that Zoom thing going, I'll let you guys know, and we'll set up some dates and stuff, and we can start chatting. So yeah. So anyways, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and close this out here. See what else we got going on. Talea and White Waves has been talking on the chat room. So thank you guys for keeping the chat room alive. Let's see here. Let's see. Talea says white memories and visions would fall in the same category. If you don't know thyself, it will feel like visions. If you know yourself, it's memories. Oh, that's beautiful right there. Let's see. White Wave says that's what I thought. Funny learning. Well said. That makes sense. Let's see. Let's see. See, they were having a conversation with each other. Let's see, it's definitely weird talking telepathically is fast, and you can't lie. It's talking also from the heart. Yeah, that's what I learned. That's what I saw too. And that's it's funny you bring that up, and that's always thing too, is like, our thought processes. We can think so fast. If we could communicate, if we could send out all of our thoughts onto a DVD or SD card, or just to our computer, man, we get so much accomplished, just from thoughts alone, because they happen so fast. But to manifest it is a lot harder, because you got to write stuff down, you got to type things out, you got to buy platforms and things like that. It's a process compared to, if our thoughts we're just able to manifest things just like that. It'd be so awesome. The sound of thunder makes me smile. Oh, you guys did hear the thunder. Yeah, it's pretty pretty loud. So yeah. It's awesome, guys. So yeah, so at the end of the day, um definitely we definitely have to realize, that we're always being conned into something. We're always being conned into something. So at the end of the day, just make sure that you're learning, you're growing in life, both physically and spiritually. You're learning from others is one of the key things. Never turn someone away, even if you don't agree with somebody. If that person's yelling with you, just let it go, right? Don't try to prove a point. And it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you do got to raise your voice. I've definitely been there. I've definitely had some conversations with my family. Same thing. Um, I think sometimes you do have to bring up that level of expressing yourself in a louder voice. At the end of the day, just make sure you're learning and growing with each other. Realize where they're at in life, and realize where you're at in life. Um, be friends with your shadow self. Never turn your shadow self away. Um, there's no such thing as being super positive, lovey-dovey, things like that. That's one aspect of us, but that's not our whole aspect. We have to embrace the learning aspect of of how our emotions work, how the ego works. Uh, it's okay to cry sometimes. It's okay to be angry sometimes. We have to embrace that element of self. That's what the shadow self is. The shadow self is just the ego, and we don't want to push it away. We want to embrace it and just be friends with the shadow self. So definitely realize, that your best friend is the shadow self, and you just have to learn from your own aspect, right? From your own aspect. So yeah, so definitely be friends with the shadow self, and at the end of the day, um, do self reflections in your life. That's why it's so important before you go to bed or even when you wake up is just pray, meditate, do self reflections, send out that healing and love to others. Forgive others. Definitely always forgive others and forgive yourself. I mean, forgive yourself. Just say, hey, I forgive my actions for what I did, or I forgive myself for feeling a little angry. Just embrace a healing aspect into your life. So yeah. So Talea says she's getting out of here. So thank you for joining, Talea. It was awesome. So yeah, it's all about healing and balance within your life. That's one of the key things. So as we're being conned throughout life, just realize, that we're learning more about ourselves, we're learning about others, and this is just Earth is just a big school of learning. And there's a lot of babies here, and not in a bad way. Okay, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people who are in the baby preschool steps, and they don't know about this stuff. They don't even know where to begin, and it's so very fascinating to me and on where people are at. You may uncover all of this knowledge and awareness of our ancestors and what they did and stuff, but that was the key thing, is that through research you gain knowledge and awareness. Some people don't have that. They don't even know where to begin. So that's where we just have to continue to create platforms, which is why it's so important for you guys to make videos to expressing where you're at in life, so that people can continue to learn and grow and develop in life, so we can all learn together and grow. So it's definitely a school of learning. This whole experience is a school of learning. So yeah, so love yourself, keep shining bright, learn and grow with others, love yourself, and as you love yourself, you'll begin to build that platform of learning how to love and respect others and build platforms with others. So yeah, I could keep talking forever. So yeah, so I'll talk to you guys later. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. So talk to you guys later.